Welcome, Dr. Bourla, to another of our How Conversations. Obviously, you're known as the chairman and CEO of Pfizer. You've been, especially recently, the recipient of countless awards and accolades from the international community, but not just for your remarkable achievements on behalf of millions and humankind, but just as much for your for how you went about it, how you galvanized and inspired so many others to join with you in common cause, and how, frankly, you've boldly and courageously gone where perhaps others would not have gone or did not go before.
Thank you for your very kind words, and I'm happy that I'm here with you to have this conversation.
I'd like to, in the spirit of you imparting some wisdom and practical guidance around leadership, take you back to your beginning, your upbringing. How did a Greek immigrant, a child of Holocaust survivors, a veterinarian, become the head of one of the world's largest corporations?
Well, I grew up in a quite large city. It was the second city of Greece, Thessaloniki. As you said, we are Jews, so we were a very small minority. The Jewish community used to be very large in that city, but during the Second World War and the Holocaust was completely exterminated almost. So only 4% survive, among them my parents that they met, and then they made a life together. I went to a public school. Then I went to the university to become a vet. I liked medicine. I liked animals. I thought that's what's good for me. And I started in Greece with Pfizer. Pfizer recruited me in their animal health division after I finished my PhD in '93. And this is how everything started.
And you went to Aristotle University. And I think you've been explicit that philosophy and reflecting on philosophical adages and precepts for you has been guiding and quite practical. One of my favorite adages from Aristotle is that educating the mind without educating the heart is no education at all. The heart being the seat of empathy, of human concern or values. Take us into the education of your heart.
It's funny because I think the Aristotle University gave me both. It gave me the training as a vet that was expected, but also was the environment that shaped my structure of values. That was the environment where mostly I became who I am right now, what I believe. You spoke about ancient Greeks. In Greece, it's very common. It's a standard part of our education. To learn and study the Greek philosophers, and that was a very big part. But also, I was studying at the university at the time that the students were very much engaged into politics. The students were very much engaged into demanding a better world. So I was not an exception. So I was very active in this type of school life. I spent endless nights doing political debates with other students and other colleagues there. That made me care for the others, maybe care for the common good.
So I should add that we are here on the occasion of the recent publication of your book, Moonshot. The process of writing the book, what understandings did it give you or understandings did it refine? And then we'll get into the lessons themselves, but I just want to hear about the process of writing the book.
The thing that I found extremely engaging was when I tried to connect each chapter with a quote of a Greek philosopher. Yeah. And I was trying to see which one fits. That in a sense, forced me to understand for every chapter, which was basically every logical step of what happened, manufacturing, discovery, politics, what was the essence, what was the moral lesson of that story. And that was a very interesting exercise.
What were your thoughts about the world that made you do these two, commit to a journey of transformation back to the core so that you could innovate at your core? but be so explicitly deliberate about your culture around these four qualities and values. Because in many ways, I think you would agree that's what prepared you for the moonshot and increased the chances that you could land on the moon, your moon.
I would agree with that. I think the culture that we were cultivating in the company helped a lot to be, because it was a culture that was speaking about courage and about focusing when you execute, and about equity, and about joy and taking pride of the things that we do. I decided to do this transformation in Pfizer because I felt that this is the right moment for us, and this is what the world is expecting from us. I truly feel that the next decade is going to be a golden era for life sciences, because the demographics are demanding a lot of medical solutions. People are living longer. The fact that people are living longer is not only that there is bigger need for old medicines, but new diseases are coming up that were not important before. And I believe that science is going to live a scientific renaissance because of technology and because of biology. So when I have this belief, and I know that Pfizer is ready to play a significant role in society's quest for cancer cures, for society's quest for vaccines that will change the lives of people, I felt that we need to transform the company. That's why we took away businesses that were not core to our business. We increased the digital expenses, we increased the R&D expenses. But I know very well that you can't transform a business just by changing the portfolio of the businesses, or just by changing the capital allocation. If you put more money here or there, you can only do it by changing the culture of the company. And that's why we did it.
What were your thoughts on business? You say that business, it's no longer business as usual. Obviously, a crisis throws the playbook away. You're a member of the BRT, and the BRT made an explicit statement around stakeholder capitalism. Was it not just scientific renaissance? What were your thoughts on the role of business in helping solve some of societal's greatest problems that led you to transform the culture towards truly putting purpose at its center and values to guide it?
I think not only now because BRT said it, but it was always like that you can only create value for shareholders if you truly create value for other stakeholders.
Right.
Let's say in our case, there is no need, there is no way that our shareholders will make a single penny if we don't create tangible value for patients. If we do, the money will come. If we don't, the money will not come. So the interest is clearly aligned. So that's why, and I believe that way before BRT and myself as part of that made these statements, and I welcome them because that's just articulating what I felt it was always true.
How do you go about, given the KPIs in a company and how vertical a company is, how do you enlist so many people in that nuance? Let's truly live our purpose. And don't worry about it. Money will find us if we do that well. But we can't count the money every day. How do you navigate that? There's profound nuance in that.
Yes, and you navigate it by creating a passion and a meaning to your purpose. I think the reason why companies that they stay true to their purpose, for example, in our case, it is breakthroughs that change patients' lives. The companies that they stay true to their purpose, they have better performance, is because that gives, it's like a compass. It's telling you what is important, what is not important in everything that you do. Someone is doing a meeting in Finland, and if he or she thinks that our goal is to make breakthroughs that change patients' lives, if what we do enhances our ability to do that, let's do it. If not, let's not do it. If everybody does this in a company, then you have an extraordinary coordination and focus of the company, what matters. That is a profound driver of success in a big corporation, which is complicated.
And that's obviously at the center. How is your cultural journey or transformation going? What's been, what went well? What's still a work in progress? What surprised you? Just take us into changing culture is not you can't do that programmatically, and it's not 6 months. It's deep work of leadership.
Within this this very bad situation of COVID, suddenly we are bringing a solution, and we are becoming the heroes of the world. For our employees, that was a profound demonstration that this culture works. Without that, it would take longer. It's difficult to convince everyone that that's the right thing to do. Very difficult. And while we are in this journey and people feel excited, but not necessarily fully committed and fully believing that that's the way to go, and you have such a success like the one that we had with the vaccine, and then just a year later, you have another huge success like the one that we had with the oral treatment against COVID. This gives the proof points that everybody was waiting to see in a very accelerated timeline. So I think right now we are in a very good way because of that.
As we get into a post-pandemic world, that ethos of saving lives, what would it look like to take that same ethos and in a more post-pandemic world now oriented towards serving society and serving human beings, so we don't go back to what is before? Because there's quite an opportunity to go from saving lives to serving lives.
Change lives, it means that it's not only that I make you well, right? I make you being able to perform, I make your family happier, I give you quality of life. There are a lot of things that are embedded into that. I think this is the fundamental that we were always believing, that we should be able to be relevant to society. And relevant means that people outside your organization should recognize that our society as a whole has a benefit with your existence.
If somebody were to ask you, based on what you've been through, if I were a head coach of a team or a principal of a school or a vice president of a corporate division or a CEO, the leadership, what is the leadership playbook for leading today?
Leadership is about inspiring, not imposing. Leadership is always about being able to articulate a vision in a way that others will believe and follow it. And the leadership it is to walk the talk. All of these things that we have said again and again are the same today. You may have to present it in a different way because generation after generation, there are different things that count and inspire, but the fundamentals have been always the same, I think.
You know, I believe that while hope is technically not a strategy, without hope, there is no strategy. Because to quote you, the one thing we all have in common, even when we have nothing, is hope. Talk about the role hope plays in all this, because for you, it's quite practical.
Hope, I think it is a fundamental belief that you have for certain things, that you can't just justify them, but you know that this is how they are. I believe in human ingenuity. I mean, I can articulate why, but this doesn't mean that I know why exactly human ingenuity will solve the next problem. But I hope it will, because I believe in science. Nobody's telling me that because science has been proven so effective, was going to resolve the issue of COVID in such a short period of time. But I hoped it would. And without that, I wouldn't start it. So I think it is very important that you have hope, or to say differently, or more corporately, to have a vision.
Related to that, you also talk about when trust is low, even great scientific breakthroughs are not embraced or embraced fast enough. What have we learned? And we've seen the assault on truth through misinformation in society. We've seen the assault on science, on expertise. And at the same time, you believe so passionately that science is the answer to so much, yet we don't have sufficient trust in science or scientists. What can we do, or what role can leaders play and Pfizer play in engendering more trust so that the kind of collaboration around these breakthroughs, not just in developing them, but in embracing them around the world, happens at scale.
Yeah, I think all of us, we need to take a step back and say, is this the world that we want to live? A world that Americans from one side mistrust and almost hate, in some cases, the Americans of the other side, or Europeans of the other side. And this is what creates this situation. The fact that health is always in the debate, the political debate, because it's so important. And we had the COVID situation. It's just bad luck that happened in the times that the two extremes are fighting each other. So it became a political statement if you are wearing a mask or not.
Yeah,
Clearly, nothing else. Political statement. So such an unfortunate situation.
and I agree, and nonetheless, that's our reality. To the extent the business of business was just business, in the world that you describe as interconnected, I call it interdependent and fused. The business of business is now society, community, responsibility. We can no longer say, oh, that's a political issue, I can avoid it. We have to engage. Employees expect it, society expects it, but we can't engage on everything. So what framework are you developing or have developed to guide what you touch, what you don't touch? How do you get it right?
Yeah, the number one, it is the fundamental question what we ask, is this issue affecting our ability to deliver breakthroughs that change patients' lives?
Yeah.
Is it affecting our ability to stay true to our purpose? When it is around health, when it is around our ability, innovation, clearly we engage. We don't stay silent, and we engage. That's fundamental in the way that we do business. Now, by putting in our values equity, also when it comes to fundamental issues of unfairness in society, also we take a position. As you said, you can't take position on everything, but this is our framework. Affects health, our ability, innovation, science, we are very, very, very vocal. Affects core values of the company, we are vocal.
What makes something a moonshot? And because I think there's so much you can offer. Imagine if more institutions were on a journey towards their moon. What makes something a moonshot?
I think the fundamental lesson for me during that journey is that the reason why people are not having very high ambitions is not because they then won't, it's because they're afraid that it won't happen. It is the fear of failure that holds them back.
No.
I think my lesson I offer it is, people don't know what they can and cannot achieve.
Right.
And if anything, they have a severe tendency to underestimate what can be accomplished. So even if you think it's impossible, just go for it, and you will be surprised how much more than what you thought initially will be achieved.
What are you doing around it becoming more comfortable to aim high, so that it doesn't take so much courage? I mean, you had uncommon courage to do something extraordinary, but wouldn't it be extraordinary if we built cultures that didn't require so much courage to take a risk in order to innovate or speak up in a meeting, etc.?
Courage can take many different dimensions, as you are, and we try to point out to our people what we mean by courage by pointing out the three most important. The first one is think big. Is everything that we speak about is ambition. The second, it is be decisive. Right now, a lot of decisions are postponed because we need more and more and more data. In reality, are postponed because there are risky decisions and we don't want to make them. We want to gain some time. That never helps. And the third is speak up, have the courage to speak up. A lot of mistakes have happened because someone in the room who knew that this is wrong didn't speak up. It's not easy, any of them, but at least by focusing and explaining, these are the three things that I want you to focus. You make it clear to your organization what is expected. You make it clear to your organization what is good and what is not good.
if we get to a more normal period and you're not leading in an emergency crisis environment, and you could be proactive about a 10-year moonshot, what would that 10-year moonshot be? And what would the leadership it would take within Pfizer to pursue it? Because 10 years is a long time.
There is a lot of need out there in the world, and a lot of areas that you could focus. Cancer, for example. Clearly, it's going to be an effort to have a moonshot within a decade in cancer. And the word cure, it is something that we play with it now, and we couldn't a few years back. But there's not the only one. So that's why I would say that for me, the way to measure our success will be if the disease heat map in 10 years will have way less red than it has right now.
Anything you would do differently? Any lessons that you were under a lot? I mean, you were moving fast. Any regrets? Anything you would do differently?
A lot of things here and there, smaller. On the fundamentals, there is one very big thing that I regret. I didn't do enough to convince the world that in the developing countries, what will be the problem is not the supply, and the supply is coming. It's a question of few months. It is that the infrastructure in these countries is not good enough to allow them to do vaccination campaigns. We lost a lot of time in the first 6 months arguing how many doses we send to Africa and how many doses we send here, and using let's say Africa is not getting enough vaccines, instead of saying, let's prepare the ground in Africa or in other places, so when the vaccines will become available in 6 months, they can be absorbed. Us, even it's not our role to prepare the medical infrastructure in a country, and maybe WHO or the Gates Foundation or others are more appropriate for something like that. But still, we have a responsibility that we didn't drive a coalition. I regret that the times that I had so big influence in things, I was not more vocal about the need to prepare the ground in these countries.
Dr. Albert Bourla, again, thank you for embracing this conversation. And I'd like to end it where we began, with just an expression of gratitude for you, your leadership, but for your 80,000 colleagues and everybody you collaborated with, because you all came together on behalf of people and citizens of the world. So thank you.
Thank you.